Good morning, fair people of the gram, but good afternoon if you're in Australia. Guess what, everybody? I am interviewing an absolutely amazing lady called Ari. Or is it Ari? I don't know how to pronounce it. It could be one or the other. She's absolutely phenomenal. She's just about to jump on board right now. Megan is with us too. Let's see if we can get Ari on board. Where is she? Come on, go live with Ari. The ADHD entrepreneur going live. Hopefully 3 seconds. Where is she? All the way from Australia. There she is. What's going on, champ?
Hey, so it's Ari, but funny enough,
Ari.
so I'm from the UK originally. So I'm from the UK originally, but I live in Australia, and Australians tend to call me Ari. So it can go either way.
Oh, cool. No worries. So actually, do you know what? You were just speaking, and I thought, I'm sure she lives in Australia. You got to look a bit of an English twang. Does that make sense?
It's like a weird hybrid. Like you get like electric and like petrol cars. Like that's me, but as an accent.
That's so much. What a cool analogy. The electric petrol car. Ari, love that. Love that behaviour. So thank you so much, by the way, for doing this. This is so cool because I think it's so important to understand what the fudge ADHD is. Literally. I saw you and I followed you because once upon a time, my girlfriend just looked at me and said, I swear you've got ADHD. Oh, okay, cool. And looking back, did a few little tests, genuinely think that I have. But I personally use it as my superpower because I coach kids. So being that is so amazing for the kids. It really is. It keeps me on top of things. It helps them have the high energy as well. It's just for me, my distraction. I'm like, oh, squirrel. That's just something personally for me. But I'm sure it comes in many forms. Ari, the entrepreneur, ADHD entrepreneur. Amazing to have you here today. What is it? What is it? If there was a little 6-year-old boy that came up to you and just heard this, what would you say to them?
If they about learning about ADHD and they were young.
Yeah. If they heard it and someone said to them, "You got
So
yeah,
sure." So I think there's two things there. The most important thing for especially kids, because it's just such a delicate age, and one of the major things with ADHD is that I always get this number wrong because it's off the top of my head, but one of the major things is that children like under a certain age, I think it's 8, get something like 20 to 40,000 more negative messages if they have ADHD than if they don't. So a lot of that, for if there is, like you said, a 6-year-old that's been diagnosed, is actually just really about strength-based reinforcement. So really positive words, building their confidence, and like really building their self-worth, because as I'm sure you work with young people, that stuff like that happens to us at a young age really affects us into adulthood, and you see it all the time when you speak to people with ADHD. They have been told repeatedly that not going to reach their potential, or they're not capable much, or they're not enough, and that's really traumatizing in the long run. And subconsciously we then take that into adulthood and believe those things about ourselves and have this really intense inner critic. So if you are a parent or a teacher or an adult with any responsibility over a child with ADHD, please make them feel heard and loved and understood.
That's absolutely powerful. By the way, you've got so much love from people watching this now, and I completely agree. I wish I had a hard button to press. I don't, but I'm pressing it now in my mind. There we go, because that was absolutely phenomenal. Because essentially every single child is after a connection with a and I think that's so amazing what you've said. And to be honest, I know our focus.
I keep losing you here. Hang on.
A bit of we are speaking the other side of the world. I can hear that. Yeah, there we go. I think that's a bit better. Is that a bit better?
I can hear your voice, but it's all out of time. But that's all I need is your voice. Oh. So that's all I need.
Good. Well, there we go. So yeah, we don't need my face. It's absolutely fine. Yeah. So I know we're talking about ADHD today. essentially, though, every single child, no matter what the ailment or the label or whatever you want to call it, they do need nurturing, they do need love. And I think you've absolutely nailed that just there in particular, because I want to get the stigma removed. So people with ADHD can't settle down, and they're all active and they're jumping on tables and they're running around everywhere. But it's not that. It's deeper than that. So I don't suppose you could, from your point of view, because you've obviously lived it, you are living it, you're doing an amazing thing helping business people and entrepreneurs excel in the business space, which is amazing. And I love what you said, that it just goes through into adulthood. Dr.
Yeah.
Bruce, the imprint phase from 0 to 7, what you learn in there, your brain's going through theta brainwaves. So what you pick up there, whether it's you're not enough, you're too high energy, you can't settle down, you're rubbish, you're an idiot, that will go through later on in life. And we hear those because essentially we're operating with it as a young child as we get older. So it's not all those things. It's not people that just can't settle down and just chill out and are wired in the classroom. So
Yeah.
what is it, and what signs can an adult look out for, if you know?
Yeah, well, first of all, I think it's important as well. Part of that stigma and the understanding of ADHD is that it's that, when people think of ADHD, they think of that hyperactive little boy who is all over the place in class. When in actual fact, ADHD presents differently in everybody, and there's more than one category too. So there's the hyperactive kind, which is the one that everybody tends to think of. Then there's the inattentive kind, which is more of like an aspect of daydreaming. So that hyperactivity is more in the mind. And then there's the combined, which is what I have, which is a fun mixture of the two.
Well, you're a high.
Yeah, definitely. I'm definitely the hyperactive type, definitely an inattentive type. So first of all, it's really important to say the differences between those. And one of the reasons is and this isn't across the board, but in women especially, the inattentive type tends to be more predominant. So what happens is they end up getting diagnosed later in life because they're not that stereotypical like depiction of what ADHD is, right? And in terms of even the name, that like there's just such a crazy misunderstanding even in the name. So the name is attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. And even in that, right? So attention deficit. So ADHD actually isn't not being able to pay attention. What it is a problem with regulating, not just attention, by the way, but a lot of things. So essentially what that means is an ADHD brain just requires a different set of stimulus, different motivators to keep that attention than somebody who doesn't have ADHD. And the thing is that's really interesting is when those motivators are there, people with ADHD can focus for far longer than those without ADHD. And that's a characteristic of ADHD called hyperfocus, which if you have ADHD, you'll know about. And it's where you intensely, it's all you think about, it's all you focus on, whether it's to your detriment. And I mean, like, when I say focus, I don't just mean like flow state. I mean, like, you'll forget to use the bathroom or eat all day or sleep. Like, it is insane. You see it a lot with young children with like video games and adults with passions, right? Which is why ADHD and entrepreneurship goes well, because obviously 12 to 14 hour days on what you care about, great. But the problem comes when those stimulus to get that attention aren't there. So the problem is for young kids, especially in school, is that those things are novelty, which, is not much novelty in a 8-hour school day. And then like passion, things that you enjoy, again, not much of that in a school day. For some people, it's challenge. And this isn't across the board, but there's many people with ADHD that are very competitive, myself included. Like, I have a phrase, hustle with love. Like, I still want to win, but I still love everybody. And then the final one is deadlines, and that's stress induced. So we sort of try and, like, we want to avoid that with kids, but it's inevitable, right? So you'll see, especially as ADHD young people become teenagers, when that deadline approaches, they'll do as much work in the day before as everybody else did in the month before and still get it in on time and do okay, right? So it's really difficult to set that up in the education system. but it's also not even taken into account because the assumption is that there's a deficit or a lack of attention anyway, and there isn't that balance between the two.
You've just blown my mind.
I'm
Genuinely.
glad.
No, you have. I've done my own research, but to hear it from you in the way you articulated that was phenomenal, because every single word that you said just there, I was reflecting on me, because that was me. The lastminute.com. But when I'm focused on something, there's been risk of being personal right now, but in my relationship, honestly, Harry, I'm like this. Till like 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. Are you coming to bed? Yeah. But I love what I do. You know what I love what I do. I'm up at 5 o'clock in the morning to speak to you, to help as many people out as possible, especially young people. And it's just, I get a few dodgy looks, but A, I don't really care. B, I just need to be probably a bit more respectful of other people's time and other people in the house, let's say. It's because I love what I do. I'm so passionate. I want to grow it. I'm just so hyper focused, and you don't see that side of the coin. I tell you what, I think a stigma is a young boy running around jumping on tables. It's a shame.
Mm-hmm.
It needs to be deleted.
You've hit the nail on the head. You really have. That is what everybody thinks of, and like it's what I thought of. So, and even for me, and the reason I was excited to talk to you, and I'm so passionate about especially young ADHDers, is I was assessed for ADHD at 10 years old, and my parents were told that I was too intelligent to have ADHD. So I was misdiagnosed. So I wasn't diagnosed till an adult because there was that misunderstanding. We're going back, 20 odd years. But there was that misunderstanding at the time that there was a connection between ADHD and intelligence. Now, if I had been diagnosed at that time, I'd imagine my teenage years and my early adulthood would have been a lot easier. I would have been, potentially on the right medications, getting the right therapy. But instead, I ended up internalizing, well, I don't have that, so it's me. I'm a problem child. I'm creating problems, and like I don't have any resentment about that. As you've seen my Instagram. First of all, I love having ADHD. I think there's huge benefits, and second of all, I just don't have time. Like if I was to be resentful about that now, I would just be wasting more time not knowing. But now I'm in a power position because I understand my brain, and it's just so important, and it still happens today because. And not just the women, like across the board, because like schools don't understand it properly. Parents don't understand it properly. So they don't look out for the more subtle signs of ADHD or the inattentive type. And now we're fighting a new battle in the fact that because diagnosis is on the rise, now the new stigma is that it's overdiagnosed. When in actual fact, and this is just my opinion, what I would assume is that there's just more information. Like we live in a social media world. Like you came across me because I'm an ADHD account and I'm educating people on ADHD, and they see that and they go, oh, okay, that kind of reminds me of me. So there's this mass awareness that's being built that is leading into more diagnosis, plus a lockdown. ADHD people, you want to see ADHD come out, it's when we're not allowed to go anywhere.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, as the media likes to do and the internet likes to do, now it's like, oh, everyone's got ADHD nowadays and blah, blah, blah. So now there's shame on top of everything else around getting diagnosis, which is just so terrible, and it just destroys my heart. So we've got to change that.
100%. I just want to acknowledge the audience that are listening now. You're getting so many comments from the Fairy God Nanny and Gina and Dagna, and it's amazing. And it's just so interesting to hear their perspectives. And you know what? They're all bespoke and they're all different because every single child is different. And I think that's cool. And I love the way that you meant. I forgot to pick up on this, but the name deficit. You are a deficit, apparently.
You are lacking. Yeah.
You're something. It's farcical. It absolutely blows my mind. It might need a bit of a rejig, and as soon as someone hears that, they just think deficit. I've got a disorder. I'm different. I'm wrong. I'm not normal. And if that is presented to me, I say, yeah, you're a weirdo, mate.
Yeah.
On purpose. And I say, do you know why? Because weirdos change the world. Look at me. I should be a teacher, and I love teachers. There's nothing wrong with being a teacher. But I should be a teacher, in a PE or science, and I should be in school, should be getting ready for school now, actually. But I'm a weirdo because I'm not fitting in with the system, so I'm breaking out of that. And I would like to thank my ADHD for that, for having that audacity and that thought just to break out and get to that really pain point of just upsetness to think to leave. And I want to help as many kids understand their own version of themselves, not treating the label as such, but treating the child. But again, making them accountable. That I've got a bit of a question though, Ari. Actually, you know, sometimes when a child hears that they've been diagnosed, and they get that, and then they get kind of, oh, I don't know, the blanket. This is what it is. It means you've got high energy and you can't settle down and you get distracted really easily and you cause trouble in class. When a child hears those things, which is not fair for the child, first of all, they tend to act upon it, play up to it. Some do, not everybody, but they say, "Well, I've got ADHD, so I must be do this. I've almost been given permission to do this." How, first of all, how might you explain it to a child, so parents can use your words to, or you know, because then the doctor might do it wrong, even though they are professional. But how could how could parents use your words to help a child understand that label
Yeah,
and
sure,
not
sure.
play? Yeah.
Well, so you know, full transparency, I don't have a kid. I just want to say to anyone that does have a kid, you don't need to take my word as gospel on this. I can't even imagine what it's like to raise a child. So, like, full transparency on that. However, I understand what you mean, and that like playing up to the idea. And my first thing to that would be like kids will be kids. And even with ADHD in itself, like it's a novelty. It's that motivation we talked about, right? So at first, it could even be a case of them just being like, "Oh, I've got ADHD. Oh, this is cool. What does this mean?" Like, that like kid mentality of like, like, "Oh, I'm cooler than everyone else. Like, well, this I'm different," and that's fine, like, good. But I would say, really, sitting down with them and, like I said, strength-based modeling, right? So starting with the positives. So I don't know, hey little dude, like, hey little dude, you tell that kid, can't you? Hey little dude, so yeah, you do have ADHD, but guess what? People with ADHD tend to be really creative and have all these great ideas and think outside of the box and change the world and do these amazing things. But the thing is, we just have to make sure, because some things are a little bit harder for people with ADHD, that we put stuff in place to make sure that those things don't get in the way of your ability to do good in the world and to make a difference and things like that. That is a strength-based approach, as opposed to don't effing do that because you're causing problems. And it's about reinforcing that positivity. I wouldn't even, if it was me and it was my child, I wouldn't even mention the things that they are quote unquote going to do because of their ADHD. Because they might not do those things, because ADHD presents differently in everyone. And B, like, I don't know if anyone remembers being a kid, but if someone put an idea in my head, it was in my head. Like, I was like, oh, okay, cool, I'll do that then. So there's, like, as far as I think, there's no need to say, well, you're going to be hyperactive or you interrupt people all the time. I think as a parent, and again, I'm not one, but my opinion is, as a parent, your job is to take care of them, create those routines and systems, and validate their experience and make them, like I said, feel seen, feel heard, and not focus on the negatives. Like any other child, if you tell them what they do wrong constantly, then first of all, they're going to be feeling constantly criticized anyway, and second of all, then it becomes that internalized thing, right? And it puts limitations on them, because it's like, you can't do this because you're this, and that's what we really want to try to avoid. But also, I'm not, like I said, I'm not a parent, but I do have some really cool people in the ADHD community who do work with parents of kids with ADHD and are, to be honest, much more capable of giving that advice than I am. And I'll send you their accounts afterwards, and you can post them on your story or whatever, and people can access them there, because how passionate I am about ADHD and business and adulthood, they're as passionate about children. So
That's absolutely phenomenal. And please, yes, send those accounts over, because of the more knowledge, the more wealth, in my opinion.
yeah,
That,
absolutely.
yeah, I really appreciate that as well. So kids are naturally curious. They will do. So if they get pinged of if a teacher accidentally says what shouldn't happen, but oh, have you got ADHD? You know, you can't be throwing things like that around. But if that does happen, then kids are going to want to try and find out, and they want to understand. So I think you've just said the best thing. You know, validate their experience, nurture them. They want that connection. Validate their feelings and emotions. Oh, that's the face I pull when I'm sad. Is there anything you want to tell me? I would love to know. Whatever. But really focus on the positive conditioning, if we were to use the word conditioning, about what's associated with that. Because you're dead right. There's so many famous people out there which have changed the world, and they either have I'm not talking about, but dyslexia, ADHD, all these things in as deficits. Not, they're actually they are superpowered, and I think
Yeah,
that's important for
exactly.
children to know.
And just one other thing as well, if you
Yeah.
know if you are a parent of a child who's been diagnosed with ADHD, the chances are, most parents are awesome. They're going to do that research and learn as much as they can. One thing I really do strongly advise is talking to their teachers,
Mm.
because sometimes, teachers in whatever the education system is, wherever it is, don't have that knowledge. And fair enough, they're not trained in that knowledge. I understand that. But like really actively going to the teacher and saying, this is what my daughter has. This is what she needs to perform the best. Can we put together a plan together to give her X, 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 so that she can do the best she can and also make your life easier as a teacher? I actually don't really care about that last bit, but I do think that, you have to have a bit of schmoozing in there.
For our audience that are listening right now, you've just given us an absolutely glorious feedback sandwich to the teacher. But it's cool though, isn't it? And what you're doing is you're essentially guiding, because the teacher has been training this, so the parent is guiding the teacher to champion and positively reinforce all of the things that needs to be positively reinforced, like that creativity, that attention that they can do. That I genuinely think every person that I've met with ADHD is caring and nurturing. I mean, look at you. You're giving us your time today, which is phenomenal. Oh yeah, there we go. So Justin Timberlake, Paris Hilton, they have it.
Richard Branson.
Richard Branson, 100%. Yeah, look at him. My God, he's got his own
Yeah.
island.
Yeah, yeah. Look, I mean, he's an entrepreneur, so he's like, I'm always like, Richard Branson got a story about. But there's so many, and actually, just to bring to another point, there's something that does really irritate me about the ADHD entrepreneur space is that you can search across the internet as much as you want. It is so hard to find women ADHD entrepreneurs being championed. It is so hard. People just don't write about it, and I don't know if that's a case of less women are talking about it, but I doubt it now, given the times and the social media and stuff. And it's, again, it's all about being seen and validated. And I can tell you right now, 82% of my following on Instagram are women. 82%. That is phenomenal. Like, that's completely unbalanced, which is weird. So what that tells me is that there is a lot of ADHD women and a lot of ADHD business women, whether they're, having ideas or wanting to take that step further, and yet they're not championed in the media. ADHD women in general aren't championed in the media. And that's a problem. Like let me ask you this. Have you ever watched a TV show where a young girl has been diagnosed with ADHD?
Can't remember. No, I don't think I have, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think that's really important that you raise that point. Just to really give an emphasis on that number, you said 83%. 83% of women, following your account, 25,000, over 25,000 followers. Just to give you an idea of how many followers you've actually got. So
and
that's
even also, what's more interesting about like my demographic, so my background's in marketing, so I know the usual demographics for Instagram, and my percentage of followers between 55 and 65 is higher than 18 to 25.
wow.
Yeah, and again, mostly women. So there's that huge demographic there of women in that age range who are trying to learn about their ADHD.
Well, maybe there's a way to shout about this, whether it be on social media, which is what you're doing, or maybe to get magazines and publish and stuff. So if there are any amazing ladies here that have been diagnosed or just feel like you have it, then shout about it, be accepting, talk about it a little bit more. I think that's important, and I love the fact that you've raised that today, because that's genuinely amazing. Why? Because essentially you're going to be role models for young girls that may be going through their confusion level, not knowing what they have, not knowing what they're capable of, judging themselves based on other people's criteria. Whereas if they had a role model, such as, you know, a lady who is and has gone through that, then oh my gosh, think of the service you're doing to that young mind.
Well, and also, you know, it's fine. I'm posting a reel about this later today, but there's so many implications for how important it is to get young people diagnosed if they have ADHD. And one of them is around how it affects things like sex, right? So a lot of people know with ADHD that there's a trouble focusing in sex and so on and so forth. But also, I think it's really important to talk about the fact that people with ADHD often become sexually active younger than those without, for whatever reason, be that the impulsivity, be that the dopamine rush. And the thing is, if that means sexual education with ADHD children needs to be happening earlier so that they have that to go into. They're also less likely to use protection. So if you put two and two together there, they're having sex earlier without protection, and, you know, adding on top of the fact that across a lifetime, those with ADHD are likely, you know, statistically will have double the amount of sexual partners of those without. Now, I'm super sex positive. I think that's great. Like, as far as I'm concerned, everyone should be doing that as much as they want to, as long as there's consent and they're comfortable and they're enjoying it. What concerns me is that they're doing it younger and without protection and without that sexual education. And like, there's just so much to take into account with younger ADHDs that just isn't even talked about. Like, it's just not talked about, and it needs to be.
Yeah, I don't need to see why there needs to be such a taboo around sex. That sex is wonderful. Sex is a great thing. We need to do that to have babies and procreate, but also to have that connection with another human being. There's, for me personally, having sex with somebody is a gift. It is
Yeah.
you're letting yourself completely be vulnerable with another person. You're letting yourself go. Your true intimate self is being with another person, which is giving their true intimate self to you. And it's an act of unionship, not taboo or oh, you had sex. Oh. No, it's nothing like, just doesn't matter. But agree 100%. Let's educate earlier so we can understand how to help a child make or guide them towards a decision that's going to be a lot more positive and life fulfilling for them. So
Yeah.
that you nailed it, Harry. I didn't even think about that. That's perfect. You don't, because you don't, do you? Because you don't. And I'll tell you why you don't. Because it's not talked about.
Exactly. Like, why would you? Like, why would you? Like, that's such an abstract connection to make. And the only reason, like, I made it is because it fascinates. Like,
Yeah.
I'm literally so obsessed with ADHD and learning how to best manage it and what needs to change to get rid of the stigma and how to protect anyone from a 4-year-old to a 124-year-old diagnosed with ADHD. So I come across this stuff and I love it. And, you know, I spend ages learning about it. But it is in like the deep, dark realms of the internet. Like, I'm talking like Google. Has anyone ever made it to the third page of Google? Because if you haven't, you haven't seen it.
Well, what's that thing? Is it just for audience? Is it DuckDuckGo or something? Or is there a new search that's not filtered by the government or anything like that? So I think it's called DuckDuck. I don't know. I'll say when I find out what it is. They were talking about on Joe Rogan. I'll send that over to you because apparently that's not been filtered or played with by
Yeah,
the.
that'd be great. That would make a huge difference. Because, and that's another thing. There's a lot of, you know, there's some really good, really like big scale ADHD resources out there. So for anyone looking, there's Attitude.
Attitude.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, like additude.com. They absolutely nail it. They have so much information from so many different perspectives. I have like a lot of respect for them for what they do. And then there's like Chad, and then like in Australia, there's ADHD Australia. I'm sure that would be the same across the board.
Mm.
But also, there's so many people who are, you know, independently writing about ADHD or talking about ADHD that don't make it into that search because why would they? That, you know, they have no accolade or whatever. And it gets missed. And some of the stuff is really, really fascinating. Some of it's really boring, and that's another problem. That some of the stuff written about ADHD is from like Harvard Medical Journal, and honestly, I just don't think they see the irony in writing stuff that boring designed somebody with ADHD, or at least talking about them. Because trying to read through that, like,
Yeah.
what do you?
I would struggle. Definitely. When I read a book, I just drift off into dreamland and read a half a paragraph and completely forgot what was in. So I have to go back and reread it.
You and me both.
Yeah. Oh, so it is. Yeah, James. Thank you, buddy. DuckDuckGo it's called, and ADHD Australia. That's wonderful. So, a bit of advice just there, which is you've actually answered my next question, which was where can people go, and I think you've just nailed it. So that's wonderful, and obviously make sure you're following this amazing lady. So I just want to give my audience just a town now. If you're not familiar with IG Live, you can actually follow people on here. So if any of what Ari said today has impacted you, or think, you know what, no, I haven't got ADHD, but I just want to support people with it, give her a follow, check her out. So first of all, two things, Ari, where can people get you, and are you offering anything at the moment to help people out, and yeah, go for it.
Yeah. Don't ask me too many questions at once because I'll forget what order they went in. So the first one, like, where can people reach out? Message me on Instagram. So even if whoever messages me, I'll always reply. Sometimes it takes me a few days because I'm busy with business stuff, or because like I get a lot of messages. But there's never a message I won't reply to. I think building community is so important. So if you just literally have a question about ADHD, message me. It will sit in my request. I will get there. Just takes a little bit of time, but I will. So please feel free. And in terms of what I have coming up, I'm actually haven't announced this to anyone yet, so that's just for you now, I guess. On the 21st of February, Australia time, I'm trying to think what time it will be in the UK. Probably inconvenient PM, I'd imagine, but there'll be a recording anyway. I'm going to host a free webinar, masterclass. I don't really know what the difference is between those two, on something called the one-page business plan. And essentially, it will give you the most ADHD friendly, simple, and effective way to plan and launch a business off one piece of paper. And it's going to be absolutely free to attend. And there's two reasons I'm doing it. The first one is I just hit 25,000 followers, which is insane. That's insane. And I want to give back. And the second reason is I have a membership, and I don't want people to join my membership just off the back of what they see on Instagram. I want to show them the value that comes in that, and what I can give to them too, in a place where they don't have to feel like they have to commit. So it's like, this is, a bit of what I can do for you. It's totally free. There's not an obligation, but if it's working for you, then we can talk more about the membership.
And not only that was it. You've nailed it. That was. You have anything to offer people at the moment, which is phenomenal. And to be honest, the amount of hearts that you're getting is incredible. So it's all well and good having 25,000 followers, yay to you, but are they true fans, and are you giving back to them, and are you serving them? The whole point of social media, in my opinion, is to be a creative, not a consumer. And you are, as I can see right now, the amount of attention, the amount of love, the amount of external validation, which you don't need, but it's lovely to have because you're very
internal.
100%.
It's about time. Yeah. Should have sent me in school. But no, yeah, and you know what, I so appreciate. I've been blown away by the support on my Instagram. It's like I'm humbled. I can't believe it. Like it's phenomenal. And I, the thing that matters the most to me really is I get messages from people who will say something as simple as like, you've really helped me today, or anything along those lines. And like, I wake up to those messages, and like I can't think of a better life lived than a life where I am helping people who are struggling through an experience that I have struggled with in the past. I can't see any more purpose in a life than something as simple as that. And I'm honored to be driven by that, and to live that experience. It's pretty crazy, to be honest, El. It's pretty mental.
Well, like I said, you're a weirdo, and guess what?
Yeah, it's fair.
No, on a serious note, because weirdos change the world, and you're doing that. You're weird based on other people's or society's standards, because you shouldn't be doing this. This is weird to do what you're doing on Instagram and be an ADHD entrepreneur. That wasn't a job title at school, was it?
Well, that's another thing actually as well. I'm about to launch a buy one give one thing on my membership. I just have to sort out a few details, where for every time somebody signs up for my membership, I want to give a free version of the membership to somebody under 18, so that they can see if entrepreneurship is for them. Because again, the ADHD, traditional education is not something that works, but you know, maybe if we can expose them to the idea of entrepreneurship at a younger age, maybe they won't have to struggle through that like I did, and like you did, and like so many other people did.
So those that sign up to, you just need to tweak a few things. Those that sign up to Ari's program, the membership, you are also serving another life, a younger life, who will probably need that. That's phenomenal. So that's probably, if you are on the edge or thinking about it, sitting on the fence, that's enough to be like, yeah, team Ari, team ADHD, go.
Well, I just said, yeah, it's just so important. Like, honestly, it's just like, you know, it comes from my own experience, as I said, and it's just so important to me that like these young ADHD kids get the opportunities that they need and that work for them, and not just the ones presented to them that don't work for them and in a way that don't work for them. And one of the things that really struck me when I first started, you know, learning about all of this and this journey was that there's two sort of places where ADHD people show up on a high percentage. One of them is entrepreneurship, which is fantastic. The other one is jail.
Wow. Wow.
So yeah, exactly that. So I feel like, you know, having been blessed enough to be in a situation to be on that positive side of that, trying to lower that number there of those young people coming up and pushing aside it's just something that's so important. Not just for me, for all of us, by the way, like for all of us. We have a
Yeah,
responsibility. So.
yeah. And it's great coming from your lips as well, because I wouldn't want to teach. I would a young girl want to listen to the menstrual cycle from me or another woman? Obviously, another woman. You know, but and because they've lived it. You've lived this, so they would want to hear from you, not some person sitting down behind a thing and just doing a drawing of them and stuff. You know. Okay. I'm blown away. This is so phenomenal, and this is so going to go on the podcast. Well, it was anyway, but it definitely is now.
Yeah. I love that. I love
Yeah,
that.
Young Life podcast. But the last question is: if you had a magic wand and you could put in one sentence into every single person's brain in the whole world. I didn't prepare you for this, by the way, everybody.
Yeah, what? No pressure.
Put you on the spot. If you could put one sentence into every single person's brain in the world, what would that sentence be and why?
Okay, it would probably be stop putting so much faith in fear and so much fear in faith.
Ooh.
And the reason it would be that is because we are, you know, as humans in the world that we live in currently, we're really settled in being frightened and you know, assuming the worst outcome will happen and believing that, but rarely do we do the flip side of that and truly believe that the good will happen. And I think, you know, there's a phrase, and it's not mine, but it's without fear there is no bravery. And I think that it's incredibly true. And anytime that there's something that comes up that, you know, is scary to me, like being on Instagram Live is scary to me. Like making Instagram content is scary to me. And especially when I first started out. And in that moment, it's like, you know, without fear, there is no bravery. Like, just remember that. And like, it's pretty sexy to be brave, you know, like it's a pretty good thing. And it just really calms me. So yeah, that would definitely be it. And I hope it helps somebody else.
I love that. And I say this, fear has a big brother and his name is courage or whatever. It could be big brother, big sister, but for me, big brother, because I'm a man. But fear has a big brother and his name is courage. You can't have fear you can't have courage without walking through the door of fear. So you've just absolutely just crushed it. I love that so much. Oh my
No, I'm
gosh.
glad. There was a lot of pressure.
Yeah. Wait, no, how phenomenal was that, everybody? Let's give Ari some hearts, please. Come on, did she just absolutely smash that?
What's
Let's give
yours
her.
though, Del? What's yours? Like if you had that same wand and you had that ability, what would yours be?
Well, off the top of my head, there's no fear without faith, and I'm joking.
Wow, so original.
So, oh no, oh my god, it's crazy. So I am still building mine. Oh, Nina, hey Nina, Nina's what viewing. I am still building mine, but mine would be to operate with the opposite of self-consciousness. meaning you don't care, you don't care, you don't mind what people think about you. You just go and be you and just live your exciting life. So operate the opposite of self-consciousness. But I'm still
Love
kind of tweaking that one, yeah. So it doesn't
that.
matter what you've got, what you've had, what people call about you, people project onto you, hurt people. So you just take it on board, see that it comes from reflection, and do what makes you happy. Because essentially we're all after the same thing on this planet, happiness, but we just go about it in different ways. Some people it's destructive, some people it's productive, as it were. So I want to do another one of these with you, because this is what
Let's do it.
I
Let's
try
do
to
it.
keep an hour, but obviously we can't because it genuinely, it feels like only been speaking for like literally 5 minutes. It's
I
been
don't even, well, how long have we been speaking? I don't even notice.
40 minutes apparently.
How long?
43 minutes. It's crazy.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah, I generally thought it was like 10 minutes, to be honest. That's good though. That means we had a really good conversation. So I love that.
Amazing, and I think that I want to do more if that's okay with you.
Yeah, definitely. But like, I need to give you my WhatsApp so you don't miss me on Instagram, so that I don't get the times wrong or miss it. So we're gonna sort that out afterwards, so you can have a direct contact to me to just keep calling me until I do it. So
Awesome. Cool. All right, legend. Well, thank you so much for giving us your precious time. Everybody listen to this. You were absolutely phenomenal. You've got such a wonderful, kind, caring, beautiful audience that you created yourself, and they're giving back and you're giving to them. Join our community. That sounds phenomenal, because you're going to give it to somebody else as well. And check out her webinar as well. You're doing a reel about that today. So check that out and just see if, or you're doing a reel today about something.
the reel's about ADHD and sex. The webinar is not sex. Well, I think it's sexy, but that's not the entire goal.
Yeah.
The webinar, like if you follow me, I'll be talking like it's probably Monday. I'll start talking about it constantly on my Instagram, so you'll hear about it. And as I said, it's totally free. So.
Amazing. Follow Ari. She's amazing. Do it now. Cool. All right. Thank you, legend. Thank you for your time. This has been phenomenal. You've tweaked and gave me so many different perspectives. It's phenomenal. So thank you.
No, my pleasure. Thanks for having me, Dale. This has been the best 10 to 45 minutes of my life. No, it's been really nice. I'm like, yeah. Normally, I like lose interest in lives after 10 minutes, so I'm super impressed that we've been going for this long. So it must be something you're doing.
Well, it's the shiniest sign just there that you can't read because it's backwards. But it's supposed to say young life. Maybe it's that. A lot of stimulus back here. A lot of stimulus.
You should ask them to make you one that works. Why wouldn't they make one that works for anyway? Yeah.
Yeah,
like, there's a for us there, Dale. Like,
hey, that's
inappropriate neon signs. Yeah. Literally.
Backwards science, entrepreneur idea.
Done. Problem solved.
Sweet. All right, legend. I'll catch you later. Have a wicked rest of your day in Australia, and I'm going to have a wicked rest of my day in the U of K.
Yeah, enjoy that winter, and I'll chat you soon. All right, bye now. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.